Hi everyone, I'm Jennie Wetter on a beautiful sunny day here in Gig Harbor, and I want to talk today a little bit about the book and literary scene here in Gig Harbor as I'm continuing my series on active and vibrant retirement here. I've had clients ask me, where is the book scene here? Where is that community center that you can just go hang out and read a book? I have done some investigation and I've learned a lot, and I'm excited to share that with you today. We have 3 bookstores here in town: the Gig Harbor Book Company, No Dearth of Books, and then we have Invitation Bookstore that just reopened in a fabulous new large location. All of those stores are right here in the downtown corridor, so you never have to go far, and there's so much to read and see and do. We're gonna head over to Invitation Bookstore in just a few minutes, where we're gonna be able to talk to Allyson Howard, who is the owner, and learn all about the scene that is rapidly developing here in Gig Harbor for all of you literary geniuses. And we're also privileged to be able to attend a book launch from a local best-selling author, and I'm excited to share that with you too. Hi everyone, we are here today with Allyson Howard. She is the owner of the Invitation Bookstore in Gig Harbor, and I'm really excited to be here for a few reasons. One, I am not a huge bookworm myself. I wish I was, but my life just doesn't allow for it too much, and so I'm excited to learn more about what you do and what's going on here. And also, as we've discussed, I'm doing this series to promote active and vibrant retirement in Gig Harbor, and I've had clients specifically come to me and ask me, what is the literary scene, the bookstore scene, and where can I go to have that kind of community in Gig Harbor? So I'm really excited to be here to learn for myself, but also to help people who are considering moving to the area what kind of fabulous amenities we actually have here. So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and having this conversation.
Well, thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your inspiration to becoming an independent bookseller.
Absolutely. So my background, actually, I spent 19 years in education before opening the bookstore. When we moved to Gig Harbor in 2017, it was just months after Mostly Books, which was our last. It was a tiny little 800 square foot bookstore, and they had just closed.
Was that
months before we moved here.
Gig Harbor?
It was down right on Harborview.
Okay.
And they had just closed, and so I moved here as someone who loved books and loved reading. There wasn't a bookstore in Gig Harbor, and so I ended up gravitating towards other indie bookstores. And when I needed a career change, my husband and I sat down, and it was, one of those, what am I going to do next conversations. We had this wild idea to open an indie bookshop in Gig Harbor. This is what we wanted in our community. And so we decided to create it.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I'm not wrong that prior to 17, other than that small little bookstore, we really didn't have much of a scene here.
Not really. There was a Borders here until Borders closed, which was, early 2010s, I think, 2011, 2013, I think that Borders closed. So other than that, it's been at least a decade before we opened that Gig Harbor really had a big event-focused kind of bookstore.
That is really exciting. Let's go back for a minute to the Barnes & Noble and the Borders days, and I know I'm dating myself. You're probably quite a bit younger than I am, but I remember being younger and having these independent bookstores, and then the bigger ones took over, but they were really important places. I was a bookworm back then, and I would go spend the day just hanging out reading. Of course, it was the digital age that changed all of that, and it's really sad that those went away. But do you feel like, since you've started this in a small town and you're growing, do you see a resurgence happening in other parts of the country?
I think overall there is a resurgence in independent bookstores. I know the American Booksellers Association tracks that kind of data, and definitely within the last several years, there's been an uptick in the number of indie bookstores that are opening. It got a little rocky during COVID.
I bet.
But I think it got a little rocky for all small businesses during COVID. But I think one of the things that COVID did for a lot of people was help them to, I think a lot of people already recognize the importance of small shops within communities. COVID just kind of put a spotlight on that as a lot of them closed down and people saw the impact on their communities of, their neighbor's business, going under, or the business that always sponsored, the Little League team, things like that.
For sure. COVID changed life for so many of us, but I also think as I watch what the digital age is doing to people, and it's taking away the connection. So the fact that we're seeing a resurgence of stores like this offering people an opportunity for connection is really great. That leads me into my next question. So tell me a little bit about the vision here at the bookstore, obviously selling books, but what else is involved?
Selling books is actually what underpins everything else that we want to do. And that's one of the things about indie bookstores is very few of us are just bookstores. We're really community spaces that happen to sell books so we can support that mission of being a community space. So we do have author events. We're actually able to expand that now. We just moved into our new location.
Which is beautiful.
Thank you. So we're able to have more author events. Our last location was a little bit smaller. Just this month we have Marie Bostwick coming. We also have Elise Hooper, who's another Northwest author.
Oh, great.
Who's coming, and Christina McMorris, who wrote Sold on a Monday, which was a huge New York Times bestseller. She's going to be here. So we have, a lot more authors. I never could have dreamt of having 3 author events in a month before. We're offering a lot more author events, but we also have a little bit of a dedicated space that we can use during store hours where we're able to do story times and craft times for kids. We host all of our book clubs in there. So now we have 4 active book clubs, another one that's starting this summer. So we have book clubs, we'll have different author events in there that are kind of smaller author events during store hours. So it's really about creating that space where people can come and learn and share ideas, not just from authors, but with each other. We're hoping to host writers groups.
That was going to be another one of my questions.
So our community outreach manager oversees our entire events program, and she has so many ideas of what she wants to be able to do now that we're in this space and have a little bit more that we can do with it. So now that we're in the waterfront, now that we're a little bit larger, we're really able to fulfill that hope we always had of being a place where the community can gather and the community can share ideas.
That is so exciting because we always need more places like that. So kudos to you for doing that. You were talking about author events and local authors. Tell me what's involved in an author event. Like what does that mean?
So they can take a lot of different forms. Sometimes we'll have an author event where it is the author in conversation with another author, or like in Marie's upcoming event, I'm lucky enough to get to be in conversation with her, which is a lot of fun because I know Marie, personally as well, and it's one of the fun things about being a local bookstore is you get to be friends with even your local authors.
Right.
So sometimes it's just a conversation, but for example, the Elise Hooper event that we have coming up, she's going to talk a little bit about her book, but her book is called The Library of Lost Dollhouses. And so after the author talk, she's setting up a craft where people who come will get to make like a little reading nook or writing nook that can sit on your bookshelf, kind of as a bookshelf decoration. So they take a lot of different forms depending on the book, depending on the author.
Okay. And how do you get the outreach out?
So we always advertise on our social media. We post to the Gig Harbor Now calendar, which is our local newspaper.
Yes.
We also have started communicating our events through the Waterfront Alliance newsletter as well.
Great.
Still trying to find the perfect mix of things to advertise events, but we do always post everything on our social media and on our website. So we have a whole dedicated events page on our website.
Great. You mentioned Marie Bostwick. Let's go back to Marie for a moment because like you said, you get to be friends with local authors. I'm the lucky one. I get to meet all these people as clients, and Marie happens to be a client, and so I feel like Ooh, I get to, best New York Times best-selling author. I always talk about Gig Harbor being such a special place because it draws people from all over. And as you're walking around this quaint small town, you might not actually know who it is that you are brushing up against, but we have incredibly talented, successful, famous people from all different kinds of backgrounds right here in town. We have more than you would know right here in Gig Harbor. So I just ran into Andrea. Nice to see you. And this is
Ava.
Ava. Mm-hmm. Ava, how old are you?
Ava just turned 1.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So you told me that you just wandered in tonight, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't know about this great event happening?
Nope, didn't know about the event. Yeah.
So what brought you in?
I've been waiting for this location to open for a while. I've lived in Gig Harbor with my husband for about a year, and we visited the old location several times, and I always try for like birthdays and things to get books locally, and so I've placed several orders over there, and I just really loved the old spot, but I always thought downtown should have a bookstore, and so when I saw that they were moving, I was so happy.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned buying books locally. Is that something that's important, and do you see that as being something that fosters the community here?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it feels definitely important to our family, and I feel like the community here, there's so many independent stores that I think a lot of people want to come out and support, so I feel really good about it.
Oh, that's very cool. You mentioned that you've lived in other places, maybe bigger than Gig Harbor.
Yeah.
That maybe had a bigger book scene.
Yeah.
Are you seeing things that you like here and that are growing and expanding opportunities?
Oh, totally. This one wants to grow and expand and start reading as we
start reading. Do you guys read every night?
We do before bed. I think that a lot of what I've seen so far has been based at the bookstores, and I've been noticing like book clubs and different events like this, and so we've just been kind of waiting for a chance to participate.
Oh, that's so exciting. So do you know Marie?
No.
This is the book launch of her 19th novel.
Oh my gosh.
She is a New York Times best-selling author,
Wow.
And she's right here in Gig Harbor. So you should stay and join the party.
Oh, I think we will try to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for chatting.
Of course.
Marie is not the only best-selling author locally, right?
There are quite a few just within Gig Harbor.
Right.
We also already kind of secretly starting to plan a big launch event for Rachel Linden for her new book in September, I want to say. Kendara Blake, who is a YA author, is local to Gig Harbor. There's a science fiction, kind of bonkers science fiction series that has just taken the world by storm called Dungeon Crawler Carl. And that author is local to Gig Harbor as well. We're hoping to be able to do something with him. So we'll see. But yeah,
he's big time, you're saying?
He's big time. There's so many authors locally, and that's just Gig Harbor.
Right.
You know, once you get into the greater Seattle area, the Seattle area as a whole has such a rich literary community. We've worked with Nikki McClure, who's an artist who does absolutely beautiful paper cut drawings, and they're all very water focused. So there's so many.
I always say the best part of my job is I get to meet so many fascinating and amazing people. There are, loads of best-selling authors, professional athletes, movie stars, movie producers that are right here in Gig Harbor. It's very understated in many ways, and that's a big reason why people like to come here. It's also important for people like my client who was asking me about, but where do I go to find this kind of space, to know that it really is available and that it's growing and that it's a vibrant scene here.
Yes.
You mentioned book clubs. I feel like lots of people I talk to are interested in book clubs. I did an interview with the New Neighbors Club, and I understand they have, I think, 14 at this point because they're so popular. How do you structure your book clubs? How does one get into the book clubs?
So right now for our book clubs, it's pretty much just show up.
Okay.
So one of the interesting things about our book clubs is they tend to fluctuate a little bit because we do have some people in our book clubs who are rainbirds. And so they'll be here for book clubs in the summer and then we won't see them in the winter.
Sure.
Or we all understand life gets in the way sometimes. And some months you get to read the book and some months you don't, or some months you really want to read the book and other months you're like, this doesn't sound great to me. And the nice thing about doing it with your local bookshop is while we all know each other in book club, there's less pressure than when it's your 4 best friends doing a book club and you flake on them. So right now our book clubs are just grab the book and drop in. All of the times are posted online or in the store.
Are they different genres? What makes them different?
They all have their own flavors.
Okay.
So I run what's called our flagship book club because it was our first book club. I just choose, really compelling paperback fiction. We have an under 200 pages book club, which is exactly what it sounds like if you're looking
That
for
would be
low
for me.
commitment. It's moderated by our community outreach manager.
Okay.
And it lets her pick translated fiction. Sometimes she's done science fiction novellas. She's done, kind of lighter, more fun things. So it lets her play around with what we're reading because it's only 200 pages. And so it's just a little bit lower commitment. We also have a nonfiction book club. It just started a couple months ago. Tends to focus on books that are more kind of sociological, cultural. And then we have a science fiction book club or a science fiction fantasy book club that meets quarterly. And those books are picked by that group.
Okay.
So they all sit down and they vote on it. So we have no stake in what's picked, but so far everything's been fantastic. And then we are starting a romantasy book club because that is the big new genre.
I have heard it's like
Yes.
throughout my office I'm being told that I'm missing out big time
Yes.
because I haven't gotten into the books.
So it's romance blended with fantasy.
Yes.
And that's where you get romantasy.
Okay.
And so we're starting that book club, and really that one might end up being our most popular book club. So
And so they all meet here.
we all meet here,
Okay.
and we have a dedicated event space that we call the Study.
So
all
this
meet-
isn't it, what I'm looking at?
No, this is when we host larger author events, everything can kind of move, and that way we can accommodate larger groups. But for our book clubs, we have a little space that's not quite finished yet. We're hoping pretty soon we'll have that all decorated and finished, but we have a little dedicated event space that we call the Study.
And so you're not limiting the number of people?
Not
right
yet.
now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've already talked about the fact that we may, as our book clubs grow here, we may end up not necessarily adding more book clubs, but adding more time. So Flagship might have an evening meeting and a morning meeting.
Okay.
And that way we can accommodate more people.
That's really exciting to think that you have to have
Yes.
additional meeting times. I
Yes.
loved hearing that too with the New Neighbors Club, and each time there's 10 more people, they have to start another book club. So again, that just tells you a little bit about the literary scene here and people's desire to be part of those kind of groups. So that it's really great. Going back to, you said you came from an education background. Was it always a dream or to own a bookstore, or did it just evolve?
It really just kind of happened.
Did it really? Okay.
So before I worked in education, I actually worked, right out of college, I worked in academic publishing. So I had worked in publishing for a while and then wanted to stay in publishing, but it doesn't pay well and it's only in big cities. So I needed to earn some money, and that's how I ended up in education, was moving home and substitute teaching. And when I needed a change from education, going back to that publishing world felt really easy and really natural. And opening a bookstore felt like an extension of that. So it was not necessarily a lifelong dream. My husband can remember when Walden Books closed in the town we lived in. He can remember driving by and me saying like, oh, wouldn't it be great to open a bookstore there? That was just kind of one of those offhanded. It really just kind of happened.
So what brought you to Gig Harbor?
I had loved the Pacific Northwest for ages. Would come up here anytime that I could. And the more we visited Gig Harbor, the more we were like, who are we kidding? We're not
Right.
staying within an hour of Gig Harbor. We're moving to
Right.
Gig Harbor because it's perfect and wonderful and everybody's hallmark small town bookstore dream.
It is, yeah.
You know, we knew we wanted to be in the Pacific Northwest, and when we had family that moved here, just ended up being where we landed.
I mean, of course, everybody has their story of how they end up here, and I actually have another video coming that is, well, because it's why Gig Harbor versus some of these other popular places, and it's not that there's really great things about so many places here in Washington, but you hit the nail on the head with the hallmark small town. And yes, it's growing, and yes, it's changing, but with growth comes all of these phenomenal opportunities to have something like this and book clubs that are growing so much that you have to start new ones. So thanks for sharing. It's always really, really fun. Was there one specific book that, if you said, has inspired you, or one or two, or an author or something, what would you say?
So I always I can almost draw a direct line between reading Toni Morrison in high school as an assigned author to where I ended up now, because that was really, I'd always been a reader. Again, the Walden books in my hometown, because that's what we had. We didn't have an independent bookstore in my hometown. We had Walden books. I mean, it was almost a weekly thing where, you know, my parents were taking us to the bookstore, and it was the one thing that we always could have. You know, we'd go to the library, but we'd also, like, it was never a no, you can't have a book. It was, you know, no, you can't have that toy, but here's a book. Reading Toni Morrison in high school was the first time I really understood what language could do and how authors played with language and were creative with language. And so that's how I ended up majoring in what I did in college. It's how I ended up in publishing and then education. And so it all kind of has this through line back to really being exposed to that in high school.
Awesome. You brought up libraries, and I think that that's important, because I know for a fact that libraries are struggling as well. One of my clients happens to be a librarian, and what we are doing with our Great Give Back program this quarter is we're actually supporting the Pierce County Library Foundation, because we understand that they are trying to be able to bring books to people who can't come to the library. But going back to my childhood and yours, you do think about, what do you do on the weekends? You go to the library, or you go to the library and you check out books. Then you think about what the digital age has done to us, and most of us don't think that way anymore. So it's just it really is so nice to feel almost grounded that this is bringing something to the community that's more grounding. And hopefully the more that you do, it'll just support the libraries or the things that we're trying to do with our Give Back program, and really try to remind people to get back to things that are important and to slowing down. I was talking with Marie one time recently just about her take on what's happening here with the scene, and she said that people are even just getting together just to sit and read their own independent book.
We do that.
That's exciting. I mean, do you have wine? Like, what's...
So what we do, among the things that we try to do as a bookstore or as a small business within this community is spotlight other businesses, because it's beneficial to all of us if we're all doing well. So one of the ways we do that is every month we have a silent reading party, and we go to a different local business each month. We rotate through quite a few, and everybody just meets and
at a business, so not here.
So not here.
Oh,
we've done Kimball Coffee Shop as kind of our home base.
Yeah.
So when it's cold and rainy, we're probably at Kimball. So we do silent reading party at Kimball Coffee Shop. This month we're going to have it at Hop Farm, which is just the brewery right across the street. We've done it at Hidden Harbor Wine Library. So we try to mix up coffee sometimes, grown-up beverages other times. And that way it mixes it up a little bit. But it truly is just a group of people who sit down, and you can chat as much before or after as you want to. But for that hour, everyone just kind of sits in community together and reads.
And that sounds fabulous.
Well, it's comforting for a lot of people, because you want to get out of your house,
right.
You want to go do things, but you don't necessarily want to sit somewhere alone with your book. So you're alone with your book with other people who are also alone with their books.
Yes.
But we've had a lot of people who have formed friendships through those silent reading parties or through the book clubs who, now recognize each other, or, do come to our book clubs together, or come to silent reading party together.
Well, I'm also thinking some people are more shy.
Yes.
And so the idea of going to a social event and not having your phone, right? Because that's the default. Everybody sits there and looks at their phone. But if the whole purpose of the party is show up, support a local business, get to know each other a little bit, but you don't have to worry about being too social because it really is about quiet time. That to me can fill a lot of space for a lot of people, myself included. Sometimes I feel like it would just be nice to sit and breathe,
Yes.
which is wonderful. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for supporting the local businesses. I think it's fantastic. Allyson, earlier you mentioned about your new space and how much more space you have and your goals of becoming more of a community space. Where did you develop that goal and why do you feel that that's so important?
I think it's part and parcel of being a bookstore. I think being in the larger space really leads to that. It's one of the first things we noticed when we moved here was people were tending to just talk to one another more, to have those conversations. When you pick up a book and someone leans over and is like, oh, I read that. That's really good. But it also lets us do, more of those things like we talked about that even aren't necessarily the author events, but are the community building events where we can have a workshop or we can have a book club and people can come in and there's someone there to talk to. They get to meet new people. I look at my mom, moved here when we moved here, and as a retiree, it was definitely harder for her. She didn't have like we did the kids and their friends and their
Exactly,
families.
yes.
And so she has been able to forge a lot of connections through the bookshop because she's here a lot anyway because she's my mom.
Of course.
But to be able to have those connections and to see people outside of here even, she'll be somewhere and run into somebody that she met at an event here and they get to talking. It's great to be the place that those connections start, knowing that in a town like Gig Harbor, they oftentimes will continue.
Yes. There's so many reasons Gig Harbor's the hallmark town. I moved here because I felt that sense of community. And so when people ask me, they're so worried about moving here, like, how am I going to meet people? And I say to them, there are so many opportunities because people really do want to be friendly and they do want to connect and they do want to meet and they want more space and more opportunities to do just that. And so it's so wonderful that you are here now and just wish you all the greatest success and excited. When I think about it, has been well less than 10 years that you've been in business and you've grown so much and you're just doing so much for the community. Thank you. I would like to make sure everybody knows how they can find you. So tell us how we can find your bookstore, your website, the calendar, all that good stuff.
So we are at 3119 Judson Street in the waterfront area of Gig Harbor. We're just across the street from the post office, which makes a really great landmark because everybody knows where the post office is. We're also next door to a very yummy Italian restaurant.
And walkable to everything.
Very walkable to everything. We are also online at invitationbookshop.com.
Perfect.
Our whole store is shoppable there. If it's something we don't have, we can absolutely order it. Usually get it within just a few days. And if you go to our website and click on events, that's where all of our events live.
Perfect. And you said you're in Gig Harbor now, also the calendar.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So everybody, you can find Allyson, you can find Invitation, and you can find community right here.
And a good book.
And a good book. Oh yeah, that too. The non-bookworm has to be reminded of that. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Have a super day. Good luck.
You as well.
Well, thanks so much for following along. I hope it's been informative for you. I know that I've actually learned a whole lot more than I did before about this thriving scene that we have for bookworms here in Gig Harbor. All of the links that were discussed in the interview with Allyson, you're going to be able to find those below. And of course, I hope that you will like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and reach out if there's anything you need related to real estate or any other questions about life here in Gig Harbor.